Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode where we are going to be hacking Among Us using Cheat Engine. This will be the third episode of the series that we have where we're using Cheat Engine to modify memory addresses in Among Us. So let's go ahead and load up into free play and get Among Us in our process list. Alright. So, I know that there was a couple of questions in the previous episode regarding pointer maps and kind of what were they, and a lot of people got confused on that portion, and which is understandable. They're very confusing at the first glance that you look at them. But I'll go over them a little bit more in depth in this video. In this video, we're going to be attempting to hack the Sabotage menu, as well as try and do wall hacks, which is a little bit different in a game like Among Us. Especially using Cheat Engine to achieve that goal. But we are going to attempt it the best we can. Okay, so first thing we're going to want to do is the Sabotage menu. So a lot of times whenever you're doing, in Among Us, when you do a Sabotage mission, you can sabotage an option. We'll do electrical. And once it's fixed, there's actually a countdown before you can use it again. So we go back to the Sabotage menu, you see that there's a bar here that's slowly going down, and it actually counts down from 30 seconds. So the reason why I know that is you can count, put a timer up for 30 seconds, and that's when this bar goes down. So we're going to do a timer. We're first going to start off with 0 seconds as the value, and we're going to do a float, because most likely this is a float value. Anytime there's a timer, most likely it's a float value. But if we don't get it, we'll go to the all value type. Okay, so let's go and do our first scan. And let's go ahead and fix this. But before we do so, we kind of want to set our next scan up so we can get as many value scans in before the timer is up. So what we're going to do is, since the value starts off at 30 seconds and decreases, we're going to say that right now the value is above 15 once we fix this. And then once it gets below 15, we'll do decreases by. So there's the timer going down. Right now we know our value is bigger than 15. Let's get a few more scans in. And now let's say decreasing by. This one right here looks pretty good. This one seems to be going down with our timer. That seems about perfect. See these float values, how it's putting a decimal, even a negative. That's why you really want to make sure that you have the correct value type selected. So we do have the correct value type selected. We can select this back to 0, or even change it to 30 if we'd like. And we can see that we've gone ahead and reset the timer here. Alright, so this is where the point where pointer maps come into play, because a lot of people were confused on why it wasn't working in a multiplayer game or why it wasn't staying. And the reason because of that is whenever you have a memory address like this, this is only a temporary address. Think of it as a temporary address. And kind of like the game Telephone when you were young, a pointer address or a pointer map essentially is the very beginning of this address, or the very beginning, like who said it first? Who said that this address needs to be 30 and decrease? So that's the value we're trying to find. That's the address we're trying to find. And we can do that with a pointer map. And once we do that, this will no longer be a temporary address, but a permanent address. And then it'll work in a multiplayer game. I'll also preface that for this to work in multiplayer and all hacks to work correctly, you need to be hosting your own multiplayer game. If you join into another person's lobby where they are the host, a lot of the hacks will only be on your side. So these are client-side hacks. So make sure that you are the host whenever whenever you're using Cheat Engine. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this one just like we did in the previous 2 episodes. So we're going to say this is Sabotage 1. So this is the first memory address that we choose. And then we're going to go ahead and run a pointer map. And this is that pointer map where it's going to generate any kind of connection to this address, and what is along with this address. So we'll say this is Sabotage 1. Alright. Now this does take some time, and we're going to see a lot of addresses here. Once we go ahead and do this, and we can check to see the pointer map, we're going to go ahead and run a pointer scan. Let's go ahead and do the address. We'll just say sab test. Now we're going to see that once we scan all of the pointers that have access to this memory address, we're going to see a whole lot, and there's no way we're going to be able to pick which one is the true address, because there's all of these addresses and all of these different base names, so we're not going to be able to find it that way. So what we can do is do the exact same thing again, where we have another temporary address. We get out of this instance, this free play instance, and we join into a new one, and this temporary address will no longer work, but we'll do another one, and we'll do it all over again, and then we'll compare the two and see if any of the pointers have stayed the same between the two. And if we get one that stays the same between the two, we'll know that that one is a permanent address, and that is one that can work in a multiplayer game. Now, so that we can whittle down the list of pointer addresses, we actually need to find out which value, or what's the offset that happens every time this value changes. So let's go ahead and find out what accesses this address. Alright, as you can see, the offset is this plus 0.8, and we're going to see if we do a sabotage option, and we can see that all of them are plus 0.8. That's our offset. So anytime something happens with the sabotage menu, there's an offset change of plus 0.8. Okay, and that's good to know. So let's go ahead and get out of this instance and join back into a new one. Alright, and we will become an imposter yet again. And we'll go ahead and use the sabotage option once again. And we'll run our new scan. So let's go ahead and set the scan to 0. Alright. And we're just going to do this whole process one more time, and that should be enough for us to find a correct pointer. Alright. Let's go ahead and run this. And as you can see, this temporary address is completely wrong now. Alright, let's go ahead and fix it. Let's say above 15. And now let's say decreased value by. Looks like none of these are it. It seems like we missed it. We'll try one more time and see if we can get it correctly this time. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and do our second scan. We're going to set it to the value type of, let's do float again. And I went ahead and pulled in our other hacks from the previous episodes. Alright, so let's go ahead and do our first scan as a float. Let's pull the electrical tab and fix electrical. Let's run the sabotage to make sure we know what it is. Let's do bigger than 15. Taking just a moment. And now let's do decreased value by. Alright, we may have to run the test one more time. We didn't get it in time, which is fine. Say the value is bigger than 15. We'll run this again. This one looks good at the bottom here. Yeah, and this was our second value. Okay, so we have our first value and our second value, or our second memory address. And we'll label this one Sabotage 2. Okay, so we now have two of our memory addresses. One of them is from the old instance, and one of them is from the new instance. Okay, so now we have to compare the two. Alright, and how to do that is first we need to run another memory address, or another pointer map. And let's go ahead and label this one Sabotage 2. And what we're going to do is compare these two pointer maps to see which ones have a permanent memory address. Okay, and to do that, it's actually quite easy. So you select one of the two that you're working with, you do pointer scan for this address, and we go ahead and select the Save Pointer Map option, and we select the second one that we have, so which was Sabotage 2, scan data. And we compare that with the first one that we selected, which was Sabotage 1. And we go ahead and select the file, or the memory address, as Sabotage 1. And we know that the pointer offset was 0, 8. So we're going to add that as another way that we can reduce the amount of pointers that are in this group. So let's press OK here, and let's save this as Sabotage cheat. So it's comparing these two right now. And as you can see, we're down to 1500, and that was way less than what we saw when we only had one pointer map. So we compared the two, and we saw, and now that these are all the permanent addresses that are stuck between those two that will work. Now, from experience in the game Among Us, these the ones that actually modify the game value are these game assemblies. So we need to select a game assembly. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. Follow along with the video, and I can promise you this will work for you as well. As long as you're not selecting things like the Unity player or these Discord or even these thread stacks. Thread stacks are not needed either. So let's go ahead and select one of these offsets. I typically like, or one of these pointers, I typically like to grab ones that have the least amount of offsets. So this one only has 5, so we'll probably grab this one. Okay. So we've gone ahead and grabbed one of these. Let's see, this one here. We'll label this Sabotage cheat. Alright, and we're going to change this to a float because that is what the other ones were. So we'll change this to a float. And let's see if this works. So let's get out of this Sabotage menu. Let's look at this, or let's look at the Sabotage menu and change this to 30. And this is the pointer value that we're changing now. And look at that. It is changing the memory address for the, or changing the timer for Sabotage, and we actually used a pointer value instead. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of these two, because we don't need them anymore, because we're actually working with a pointer value now. Alright, so we have our Sabotage cheat, we have our kill cooldown cheat, and we have our always be the imposter cheat. Okay. So that seems to be working now. Now we're going to go into an online match and see if we can do this. Let's go ahead and host a game. Alright, and this will take some time, so I'll skip ahead just so you guys can get into a full lobby. Alright, we finally seem to have gotten a game. It took a good bit of time, but we did finally get one. So this is where we're going to show off the hacks in a multiplayer lobby, because I know a lot of people were saying that it wasn't working in multiplayer. So this is just to kind of do a showcase that it does, if you do it correctly and you follow the step-by-step guide. Okay, so let's go ahead and become an imposter. Alright, let's check our, so we do have kill cooldown now. Let's change that to 0. And we can lock it in place. Okay. And now let's also do a electrical tab, or electrical sabotage, where they have to fix it. Everyone's saving to have to fix it, and we see the timer is going. Let's change it back to 0, And let's just sabotage it again. Seems like there was a dead body. So you can seem to sabotage. Let's go ahead and die real quick, because we're actually going to go ahead and show you a little bit different into the wall hacks. There we go. Let's hopefully that works. Okay, so for wall hacks, we're going to do it a little bit differently. So we know that the other hacks work, we know sabotage works, we know imposter hack works, and we know the kill cooldown works. Now, wall hacks are a little bit different because it's not just the difference between changing a value of 1 to 0 and running into a wall. We actually need to browse a memory address, or a memory region, actually. So once everyone's done voting here, and they see that it's me, I'll be dead, but whenever you're dead, you're actually able to go through walls. And that's what we're wanting to learn. We're wanting to learn what is causing us to be able to go through walls. So once everyone votes here, give this just a moment. Okay, so I am out, which is good to hear, or good to see. And it shows that I was an imposter, even though I wasn't in the beginning. Okay, so I'm dead, and I can go through walls. And that's kind of what we're wanting to look at. So, if we look at the memory region, so here's the memory region. Let's bring this over here. Okay. So whenever we are an imposter, this first one is the change between the 1 and the 0. So if I were to change this to 0, we're no longer the imposter. If we change it back to 1, we are an imposter. Now, there's another 1 here. So this is a memory region that has to do with being an imposter or being alive. So this 1 here must be something to do with being an imposter also. So if once this next menu pops up, we can actually change to being change this to a 0 and see what this does. And you can do this with a lot of the ones that are near the memory address. Make sure everyone votes real quick. Actually, let's go ahead and do it now. And look, we actually came back to life. The moment that we did that, we came back to life in the main screen. And let's see if we're able to vote, and we are. So this one right here is the difference between life and being alive and being dead. That seems to be the difference between those. Okay, so pink was an imposter, which is fine, because we are still alive. Okay, and look, we came back to life, and would you look at that, we're able to go through walls. So we're able to go through walls, we are an imposter, and these are those wall hacks we were talking about. If we change this back to 1, we would be dead, but we don't want to do that because the game would end, and let's see if we can get some kills now. And look at that. And there we go. So that is how you do wall hacks in Among Us. So what we did there, if it was a little too fast to kind of process, this was the memory region. So we browsed the memory region, and we saw that whenever we died, this number changed to 1. So that must mean whenever you are dead, you change and you turn into a ghost. This is the memory, the byte that's associated with being dead. If it's a 1, it means you're dead. If it's a 0, it means you're alive. So when we changed that to 0, we actually came back to life, but we still had all of the properties of being a ghost. So we had those wall hacks. Okay, and that seems to be the end conclusion of how to hack Among Us in using Cheat Engine. And we're actually, I wonder if we're able to change any of these while we are in lobby. It doesn't seem to. Yeah, actually you can. You can change them in lobby. Good to know. Okay, If you guys have any more questions, be sure to reach out in the comment section below. I do take a lot of suggestions, and if you have any questions, be sure to ask. I do respond to every comment, as well as any other games that you wish to see. I can definitely show them in a next episode. Any game, as long as it's you can host it yourself. So games like Civilization, any kind of games where you're able to be the host, you can definitely use Cheat Engine. I can show you kind of some of the ways that we can go about hacking it using Cheat Engine. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed. You guys have a great rest of your day or night whenever you are watching this.